Significant other, Audrey, is a massive fan of yours. As a matter of fact, every time I walk out of her door, I see your name in two different directions with the signs on her front lawn.
Well, thank you very much.
And then we went to Fox's, and they've got signs there. So I kept running into you everywhere I went at Orwood last weekend. So that's a good thing. So what do you like?
Well, that's good.
Go ahead.
No, go ahead. Can you hear me? Okay.
Yeah, we're hearing you better now. What do you? I'm totally intrigued about you running for congressman, and because I always want to talk to you about what it's like to be mayor, but now we have all kinds of subjects, and then I got into looking at the change in the map, which I couldn't believe how much the map has changed, and now I know why you're running because it's your turf. Where do you want to start? Tell me what do you like about being mayor? What do you think your accomplishments were, and why do you want to run for Congress? I guess is the question.
Well, what I like about being mayor is, I grew up here. I was adopted. I was raised here, so I've been here for over 50 years, other than my time in the military and college. And obviously, the town has changed a lot, but it's great to be able to give back to your hometown. And after getting into office, I saw what the fiscal cliff that we were headed for. I had no idea. I actually thought we were reasonably well run. We had some debt issues and things like that were obvious, but I had no idea that we were projected to basically blow through our reserves in a few years, and by this year, 2022, so 5 years in, be like minus 8% on our reserves. So we had to make some significant changes to how we operated financially, and we did. And we did, even with a board that was 6-1 against me to begin with. I'm still able to get them to move in the right direction, reduce debt, cut back our operating expenses by 14%, cut our head count by 9%. We really didn't impact services. So we just operated more efficiently and operated more effectively. And voila, we're in a much better position with 35% reserves this year. Actually, we were able to take $10 million of those reserves and put them into some capital projects that we need, just because we made some good decisions at an important time.
Well, Mayor, obviously I'm asking this question because you know the answer and I don't. Most of the suburban mayors in Illinois, and even the mayor of Chicago, really, isn't it kind of like a weak mayor system? I mean, you're not a dictator by any stretch. When you get in there, I mean, you need to work with the board and these other people to get anything done, right?
That's true. Actually, the Village of Orland Park is the weakest form of mayoral government that there is. And the board hires our village manager. We're a manager-council form of government where they shift some of my executive authority that is otherwise given to most mayors to the village manager. So in some ways, having a board that was against me, and they hired a village manager that was actually the former mayor's deputy committeeman in the Democratic Party, basically to obstruct me. And having that against me the first 2 years actually made me a better mayor because I had to use every tool available. I had to know the law, know what my options were, and I also had to use the bully pulpit of the press and being able to also get information to residents, because even though you don't have legal power, you certainly have the soft power of the office because people think you have that power.
Well, but I remember vaguely when that was going on, and I do. I mean, it's obvious you landed sort of on top there. I mean, I won't say sort of, and popularity shows. I mean, and you've had challenges like everybody. You've got a huge mall, which I got to believe brings in some money, but it also has its issues in the last several years, which has to have been something that's taken up a lot of your time in terms of security, in terms of those kinds of things. I mean, I don't imagine it's easy, but I look at your picture. This is not an assault. You're not 25 anymore.
Easy. Easy.
And you're used to being in charge and making these decisions and saying, like, I thought that road was a pretty good idea and we built it, and boy, it looks damn good. I mean, there's a lot to be said for that. How does running for representative kind of fit into somebody who's been in charge for a while?
Well, that's a very good point. One of the decision-making, when I was sitting down making the decision, one of the questions I asked, I said, I'm a really good executive. I'm not so sure that I'll be as good at being a legislator. And, a lot of my friends said, just because you're a good executive doesn't mean you won't be a good legislator. And the fact is, I've term limited myself as mayor, so my days as executive are somewhat numbered. And when I look at the big picture and what's happening in the country, we need good people with a broad base of experience in Congress who, frankly, have spent their whole life trying to be a congressman. This was a decision made in pretty short order and not something I was really dreaming of doing. And I think my background, between my military background, my small business background, my consulting is for large businesses as well, and then mayor, really gives me a broad experience that I can bring to Congress, which I think is sorely needed within the halls of the Capitol.
I don't disagree. I just the skill set I see, and since I've been reading about your stuff now for 2 days, I would like to see it governor, not representative, but that's I guess that's too big of a leap, eh? What is the career path of a successful mayor in a town of 100,000 people? What's next? I mean, I guess you're heading one direction, but there really aren't a whole lot of places to go, are there?
Well, when I became mayor, I thought I'd be mayor for 8 years, 12 years, and then I would move on and go back and focus on the private sector. That's what I thought I would do. And then this popped up and seemed like the right thing to do at the time. And as I tell my kids, you never know what's going to happen in life. I sure as heck didn't expect to be a landscaper. I have an aerospace engineering degree and an MBA, and I bought a small business that was a tree service and grew it into a tree service and full service tree service and landscape company. I didn't expect that either, but when life opens doors for you and gives you opportunities, you need to seize those opportunities.
Yeah, I have a family member who did aerospace at Ohio State, and he went to work for an aerospace firm in Columbus, and they moved, and he didn't want to move his family, so he hasn't done any aerospace for 30 years. I mean, it's amazing how that stuff happens. I imagine you loved aerospace, so that'd be interesting as hell.
Well, you know what? I never was actually a practicing engineer because I went straight from straight from Arizona State and my aerospace engineering degree into the Air Force, and I was a backseater in F-15E, so that was exciting. I sure loved that. It was probably the best job I ever had. But back to your point, I'm not 25 anymore, and I don't think my body could handle it.
Well, let's get the reason why the show says Stocks and Jocks, but we wander all over the place and everything, and we have a couple of people here that have actually supported congressmen. One in Florida was Republican, and he ended up getting elected. And after 1 or 2 terms, he said, "I'm out of here. I'm not." I mean, what is it like? I mean, what is your feeling of being a new guy in Congress? Let's assume you win. First of all, will it be a lot better? Not just because the power in terms of your ability to participate, if the Republicans take the Congress back versus if they don't. I guess I'm trying to figure out what does the person at the end of the bench do his first year? I'm asking because I don't know.
I don't know exactly either. I talked to General Bergman, who was elected congressman in 2016 up in Wisconsin, northern Michigan. He's got the Upper Peninsula. He lives just outside the Wisconsin border, and he's the highest ranking military officer ever elected to Congress. And I sat down and talked to him for a while, and he said what Congress really needs throughout Congress is leaders. And he said, there's not a lot of leaders. And he said he's not just talking about the leadership at the highest level. He's talking about throughout Congress, because we have to find a way to start working together, and and how we're going to bring things together to solve problems for people. So as the new guy, so in the military we called it the FNG, the F and new guy. I'm going to learn. I'm going to walk in there with my eyes open and my ears open and learn as much as I possibly can, but also contribute wherever I can. And I have a couple of committees that I'd like to sit on, and I'm hoping I think there's going to be 65 to 85 new people between new Republicans as well as Democrats that have retired, so new Democrats. I hope with all of those new people, we bring people that want to actually work together, and hopefully that new freshman class can steer Congress into a direction where we try to solve at least the 75% of each of these issues that we agree on, instead of just sitting in corners and duking it out all the time.
Well, there must be some way. I mean, I don't know this him very well, but he's a good friend of one of my friends. Mike Quigley, he's my guy. He's in my congressman. I don't know if he's my guy necessarily, but now he has managed to, after a few terms, get his way into one of those. He's on the the double secret committee on reporting on any kind of military activity overseas, and where he's in a very responsible spot. I mean, I would assume that if you get in, that they're going to identify your skill set is somewhat different than somebody wandering in at 26, and that you'll probably matriculate pretty fast into something like that. I mean, maybe people didn't even know you had that position, but your peers recognize that this guy's a little further down the road than most. I mean, is that in the back of your mind, I assume?
I would hope so. So I would like to. I think I would like to sit on two committees. One for the district. I think transportation is pretty critical for the entire region. We are the hub of the country for transportation, so I think that's pretty important. And I think there's one from me in my country, one that I would really like in my country. And that's either intelligence, which is what you're talking about, or armed services. I think those would both be great committees to sit on that I would personally really enjoy.
Yeah, I would think you'd be somewhat of a natural for that. I mean, having the experience you have. Real quick, I'm stunned at the difference between when Audrey first told me you were running, and I dug up when they were still messing around with the maps. I'm trying to find the 6th district, and of course they made it as hard as possible, or maybe I'm just bad at it. I find it, I'm going, what's he doing? There's like, Orland doesn't even look like it's part of this district, and now I see the new district. And by the way, Orland is the new district. So, did you anticipate that change, or did you look at the map like I did and go, "Wow, I got a good chance here"?
So I did not anticipate that change. It was a very strange looking map, and it was actually when the map came out, and I happened to be down in Arizona at the time, and with my brother, and he's a little bit involved with helping some candidates down there. And he said, "This map is interesting." And I looked at it and I said, "Okay, great." And then I just kind of ignored it. Then he kind of worked on me for a few days and had me thinking about the fact that this map was actually winnable. So there was a couple things about it. One is the district went from very heavily leaning Democrat to a very neutral district. It's actually more like, as big as it is geographically, it's more like what a congressional district should be, right? All of the towns, there's 42 of them, are very similar. I mean, they're different, but they're similar as far as what our needs and desires are, as opposed to having something in downtown, in the projects in Chicago and then all the way out in the suburbs in Orland Park like we had before. So that's one good thing. The other thing is it's a very neutral district, so it's a district that should be competitive every year, which means that you can actually, even in a Republican wave year going forward, if you do a good job, you can stay in the seat. Whereas previously, the way the district was drawn, I'm not sure that was possible. You might have been able to win once, but you certainly couldn't keep the seat for any length of time.
Well, is this a combination? I mean, the old 6th district I looked at ended up going all the way up to Barrington. This was a merger of the 6th district and the 3rd district, and actually the new 6th is only 26% of the old 6th, and it's 41% of the old 3, and 33% of it is completely new. And yeah, that's what I'm saying. The old one, I looked at it, I go, why the hell would he want to run for that? He's not from Barrington, but just the number. And now this one, I'm looking at it going, this is your spot. I mean, you're right in the middle of it.
Yeah, it's the biggest. Orland Park's the biggest village or city in the district. Well, obviously Chicago's in the district, but as far as the number of votes, it's the biggest number of votes in any city in the district. So and Cook County is about 55% of the voters, and DuPage is about 45% of the voters. So it's a very long district north to south, but it could be worse. It could be like Rodney Davis down in central Illinois, going from the western border to the eastern border.
Well, the gentleman who's the incumbent, he probably does he even recognize his district? I mean, it doesn't look like the one he ran for.
75% of the people in the district don't know who he is. I mean, it's a new district.
That's what I mean.
And he has a primary against Marie Newman, whose district was merged into his. So there's actually a Democratic primary as well. So that's also obviously beneficial for the Republican candidate going into the general.
Are you opposed on the Republican side or no?
I have 5 opponents on the Republican side, and as I point out to folks when we're out there talking, we all agree on all the issues. I'm the one guy that's done something on all of them. I'm the only vet. I'm not the only mayor. There's one other mayor, but I'm the only one that's lowered property taxes, cut all the debt, the operating expenditures. I've also worked on crime. We have the safest city in Illinois in 2020. In 2021, we were named the 8th safest small city in the country, and crime has gone down. We're in Cook County, and crime has gone down every year for 5 years.
Yeah, I mean the record is even with a mall that has its issues. I mean, it's pretty spotless. I mean, as records go, I mean, everybody can always going to talk about the good parts, but the fact is, I mean, the people that are there, I don't really talk. I mean, all the people I hang with are from Orland, even though I live in the city. I don't hear any complaints, to be honest with you. I mean, it's so if now if you don't win, you get to finish out your term, but then you can't run again, correct?
I can run one. Actually, technically, I can run 2 more times because the way term limits work, you can't do it retrospectively, or retroactively. So I technically could run for 2 more terms, but the term limits are 12 years. So I would only run for 1 more term if I lose in November. But I'm not going to lose.
I don't. Yeah, I mean, you're so you've got the primary. Just so everybody knows the nuts and bolts of this, if they want to go vote. And the primary is when, in June?
The primary is June 28th.
Okay, and then and assuming you win, then you run against one of the other 2 people, and that's in November in the general election, correct?
And that is, I believe, November 8th, so that's second Tuesday in November.
Well, that's I bet it's exciting as hell. I bet you're enjoying yourself. It doesn't appear that anybody's all that winging names at each other, especially in the primary. It sounds like everybody is on sort of the same page. So it's kind of like an election that elections are sort of supposed to be. How often do you get those these days?
Well, I think it's going to be that way. It's that way right now, but frankly, I have a pretty big lead over everyone, so I expect, even though everyone says in the primary, don't attack the others because we have to come together and we have to win in November, I expect that the attacks are going to start coming because people they'll want to win, so they'll get desperate, and they're not really thinking of the prize, which the prize is winning in November. The prize is not. It's not winning in June. Obviously, you want to win in June to get to November, but as a team, the Republican team, if you want to call it that, the goal is to win the seat in November.
What would just going through the demographics, and I'm sure somebody in Springfield or somewhere could tell you house by house where people voted last time. What are the chances of both of the parties in the new district?
So the district, so District 6 was a +6 to +8 Democrat district. District 3 was a +8 to +10, and the new district is +1 or +2 Democrat. So it's very neutral, as I said. So there's a very good chance in this election for the Republicans to do well.
The old 6. Eliani has a question here. I want to give her a chance, but the old 6, wasn't Henry Hyde the guy for like 30 years? He was Republican, wasn't he?
It may have been Henry Hyde. I know it was redistricted as well, and it was Roskam before Kasten.
Right. I'm going way back. I remember that.
Took over.
Yeah, I remember the name Henry Hyde. He was there from I bet he won 10 terms. He was unmovable. But that was
Illinois looked a little different back then.
True. Eliani, you have a question?
Yeah, there's just something kind of lighthearted as we're coming to the close of the show. And during your mayorship and now running for Congress with your current candidacy, what is something that you wish you knew or you wish someone told you throughout these processes?
I guess the one thing I wish that I would have known, although I don't know that it would have deterred me from running, is I wish I would have known just how vile some people would get with how they would attack you and your family.
Yeah.
And it's been pretty bad, worse than I've ever seen. And actually, most people have said worse than they've ever seen in their lives. So,
wow.
The good news is I have a strong wife, and she just kind of ignores that stuff. But when they start sending things to where your wife works, talking about her in her childhood, even, which not only were they not true, but even if they were, who cares? She's a grown woman now, and so there were a lot of things like that were really unfortunate. But people will do anything they can to stay in power.
What?
I I guess I kind of knew that, but I didn't know they would stoop to those levels.
I actually have experience with that, unfortunately. So yeah, it's interesting what happens when you become a public figure, how far people are willing to go. I mean, people just wish they were in your position then, right? They wish they could get that far ahead in their lives. You're a successful guy with a happy family. Like, there's a lot of people that don't have that, and now you're running for Congress, and who's this guy, and who does he think he is? And yeah, it's quick. People are quick, They're quick to judge, quick to say hateful things.
Mayor, can I ask a technical question on something obviously that it's in my mind? When you guys, in the last years you've been there, when you let out construction contracts and so forth, because you guys have done an amazing amount of work on like LaGrange Road and so forth. Does a current contract generally include an inflation clause in it, or has that gone the way of the dodo bird?
So most of the contracts we have do not have an inflation clause in it. We did have one company that frankly came to us and said, we can't continue to do this contract or we're going to go out of business. And, what do you tell that company? You say, we're going to drive you out of business? So that was a special situation. But for the most part, we really haven't seen that at this point. I don't think it's gone the way of the dodo bird, because I think you see it in private contracts, but haven't seen it in too many public contracts.
Well, I tell you, my background is I worked for Pullman, and we did railroad cars for the. I can't imagine anybody signing a contract without one now. I mean, but that would be me. You're saying that people haven't woken up yet, basically.
I haven't seen it yet, but that doesn't mean it's not going to happen. Most of our contracts too are, for our construction contracts are, 1 year or 2 years. The projects usually aren't, in a municipality aren't, 5 or 10-year contracts. So we're, and a lot of those one-year contracts too, they grow every year. They'll have a 2% or 3% bump already built into the contract. So I would imagine maybe we'll start to see those bumps be higher.
Yeah.
Give the out-year pricing.
All right, so shameless plug, Keith Pekau for Congress, that's your website, correct? And people should go there if they want to.
It's keithpekau.com.
Okay, I'm looking right at it. Good picture, by the way. And so we'd like to have you back on for sure after you win the primary. How's that sound?
That sounds great. Happy to come on anytime.
And by the way, good luck to you. I'm sure I'll see your name every time I go by my girlfriend's place and all over the place. So, by the way, those signs are nice.
You're funny.
those signs are real nice. Whoever did them for you, they're real clear. As signs go, they're the nicest I've ever seen.
Yes,
well, imagine that in Orland Park I have pretty good signage.
Yeah.
It's the rest of the district I have to get covered.
Mayor, take care of yourself. Good luck, and we'll have you back on.